the creature in the dark. Night always gave me the feeling that the world could be reduced to two headlights. As long as the white stripes of road markings flickered under the cabin and the diesel engine hummed at steady revolutions, I felt as if I was floating along a narrow river where no one could disturb me. During the day, the road belongs to everyone else. Phones, reckless drivers, police posts, endless conversations. At night, it is only you, the truck, and the black air pressing against the glass as if testing the strength of the windows. On that run, I was hauling supermarket display fridges, heavy, boxed, padded with sheets of foam. Logistics wanted me to drive during the day, but I asked for a night run, an empty step highway, fewer trucks, no heat. 200 kilometers of solitude, just right to cross the section and reach the bypass by dawn. I tossed a thermos, a couple of sandwiches, a crowbar, and a flare under the seat. I always keep one, just in case, and rolled onto the dark ribbon of asphalt. The first half hour passed quietly with the steady hiss of tires. The radio picked up nothing but static and useless pop songs, so I turned it off. The CB crackled once with someone saying "fifth truck on the line," and then silence returned. I set the cruise control at 8 of 5, tightened the belt across my chest, and made myself comfortable. The night pressed down thick and starless. Clouds hung low, fog lay in patches like spilled milk, and the headlights carved tunnels through it. About 40 kilometers in, a roadside cross appeared on the right, a small wooden marker, the kind you see often along highways. Instinctively, I dropped a few kilometers off the speed. On an empty road, anything that reminds you of death seems louder. The shadows deepen, the silence thickens, and every stone on the shoulder looks like an eye. I smirked at my own superstition, took a sip of tea, and regained speed. The fog began to grow thicker. It was not soft fog, but an angry kind. It swallowed everything unnecessary and left only sharp edges of objects and emptiness between them. In that emptiness, you hear too much. When something thudded against the side of the trailer, dull, as if a clump of earth had struck, I instinctively checked the mirrors. Nothing, just the lane, the white stones on the shoulder, and darkness. I said aloud, "The foam is shifting." My own voice sounded strange, with an echo inside the cab. A little further on, I saw a dark heap on the road. The headlights locked onto the shape, and it became clear. A carcass. Small, either a dog or a deer. Around here they call them simply beasts. Usually such things you swerve around. But this one left a broad, dark smear across the asphalt, which meant someone had already dragged it under a bumper. I slowed down, drifted into the opposite lane. The road was empty, and drew level with it. And then the carcass moved, not like living creatures move, not a sudden spasm. Number. Slowly, like a sack with someone inside, shifting an elbow. In the belly, where the hide had split, something inside pushed the torn edge outward and then sank back. The muscles in my back clenched by themselves. Sweat broke across my palms. I braked until the truck almost stopped, switched on the hazard lights, lowered the window. At once the smell of wet fur and rot seeped in, and reached for the flashlight. Light over death is always dangerous, but leaving something alive on the road is worse. I stepped out. Night embraced me as if it had never let me go. 10 paces from cab to carcass. The headlight beams slid over the wet asphalt, fading into the fog. I raised the flashlight. It was a dog, large and mangy, gray hide matted with dirt. The eyes were empty, dull, teeth bared, tongue lolling. The belly was torn open like an old sack. Through the split flesh shone a whitish slime, fat or ragged viscera, and inside something moved. First a ripple ran across it like under a sheet of film on water, then a hand pressed out from within the hide. It looked human, but was too long, pale as wax, with nails long and opaque. The dog's skin bulged, tore further, and whatever was inside scraped along the ribs, clutching, and forced itself out. I took a step back. My legs were weak, but I did not run. Cowardice in such places is worse than fear. Out of the split slid a thing, like a man, but not. A slick back where the skin hung loosely, muscles crawling beneath like worms in a jar. Sharp shoulder blades, a thin neck, a head too heavy, turning with delay as if twisted on a hidden handle. The eyes reflected the beam, not like an animal's, but flat like mirrors. The mouth was too wide, ragged, filled with teeth sharpened like on stone. It pulled itself out of the dog's hide, and the skin dropped with a wet sigh onto the asphalt like an empty bag. The creature crouched on all fours, but its hands were human, with palms and fingers. For a moment it trembled, as if testing the world. Then it turned its head toward me. I do not know how long we stared at each other. I could hear its breathing, soft, wheezing, neither animal nor human. I stepped back toward the cab, raised the crowbar. It tilted its head slightly, as if listening to the crunch of gravel beneath my boot. And then it moved. I leapt, not ran. My hands found the rail. I vaulted into the cab, slammed the door, yanked the handle, fired the engine. Diesel coughed, caught. In the headlight beam, the creature was already by the wheel. I floored the pedal, the truck lunged, the trailer swung. Something slammed against the side, not light, heavy, like a hand, but with claws. I heard the crowbar slip and clatter onto the mat. The headlights cut through the fog. The creature slid out of the light. I drove hard, my heart beat in my throat as if it wanted to break through. Sweat streamed between my shoulder blades. I felt it even without seeing, the way you feel a gaze. Every sound became part of its presence, as if it ran alongside in the ditch, ready to spring. I wanted to switch on the radio, any voice, any noise, but did not. Sometimes voices at night are worse than silence. The fog thinned only to reveal a black shape ahead. It crouched in the lane like a dog tearing at something. Blood glistened, dark as tar in the headlights, and white, bone. I did not slow down. The creature raised its head, eyes gleaming mirrors, and leapt into the beams. The impact against the hood was wet and heavy. The windshield cracked in an instant web. The cabin filled with the stench of meat and swamp. I hit the wipers. They smeared thick filth across the glass. I slammed the horn without knowing why. In the side mirror, a pale hand slapped onto the roof. Teeth scraped on the metal, not screeching, but a wet whisper. I swerved. The trailer swung. Something slid from above and thudded against the side. Ahead glowed a pool of light, a way station, abandoned, with a broken shack. I pulled onto the concrete pad. The lamp above was yellow, merciless like a hospital light. I unlatched the belt, stretched my legs, pulled the flare from under the seat, primed it, but did not ignite it. I exhaled. For a moment, the pounding of my chest loosened. The windshield held, cracked, solid. Outside was silence, no wind, no insects. In that silence, I felt a sharp sting in my forearm. I pulled back the sleeve, 3 parallel scratches, shallow but raw, with scabbed edges. I had not felt them happen Perhaps when the creature struck the side, I told myself it was the metal. I knew I was lying. They were too even, too deliberate. Then, above me, on the roof of the cab, something shifted weight, carefully like a cat. Then a slow, wet breath right over the windshield. I did not look up. I forced myself not to. My fingers tore the flare open. I struck it. White fire roared in the cabin like a small sun. Through the cracked glass, the blaze burst out. Above, a hiss like spit on hot iron. I raised the flare high, almost touching the ceiling, and through the webbed glass I glimpsed it, pressed against the roof, arching its back, eyes snapping shut, skin blistering in the light. I dropped into gear, shot forward, leapt the concrete pad, and roared back onto the road. The flare spat sparks, dropping burning specks onto the mat. The smell of sulfur smothered every other odor, and that was good. On the roof, something clawed, but the light burned it. I swerved, tires shrieked on the paint, and then something heavy slid off and struck the pavement. I hurled the flare out the window. For a second, in the edge of the light, I saw a gray, slick form crouch by the roadside, covering its head with its hands. Sparks rained down. Then the night swallowed everything. I drove on. In the mirror, sometimes a shadow flickered in the ditch, running on all fours. And every so often, a soft, almost tender tapping struck the trailer 3 times. My blood froze. I realized it was not a threat. It was a message. I am here. A great beast playing with a truck like a cat with a mouse. I held the wheel as if it was the only solid thing left. Ahead, the road narrowed with construction. I remembered this place, 1 lane blocked, concrete walls lined on both sides, leaving a narrow corridor bristling with iron rods. Enter it at speed, and anything clinging on top would be scraped away. I made it my trap. When the reflective barriers appeared, the creature slammed the roof again, heavier than before. Metal groaned, the cab shook, cargo rattled. I could feel its hand sliding along the seal, teeth gnawing at the gutter. I hit the hazard lights to confuse it. Then I entered the corridor at full speed. Concrete raced by on both sides. Air became a tunnel. The creature growled, not loud, but inside my skin. Something dangled in front of the windshield, gray, slick, lowering like a snake. Instinct moved me. I braked sharply, then floored it. The truck dipped. The creature lunged forward. For a split second, the headlights caught it full, elongated like an adolescent, skin hanging in strips, mouth wide, teeth jagged like broken glass, throat a dark, trembling hole. It smashed into the wall and spread like a wet cloak. I drove straight into it. The impact blinded me white. The truck jolted, mirrors sheared against concrete, sparks flew. Something wet burst across the windshield. Then it was over. The engine roared, the tires gripped, the night shrank again into a corridor of light. I did not stop until 10 minutes later. I pulled onto the shoulder, hazard lights blinking, forehead against the wheel. The tea in the thermos was cold, but I drank anyway. The cab reeked of rot, sulfur, scorched rubber, and blood, not mine. I opened the door. The night air was cooler. Far east, the sky was paling. A bird called. Birds returned the world. I checked the truck. Hood smeared with grime. Windshield shattered but intact. Roof dented and slashed as if something tried to claw out. Along the side, dark streaks. At the rear doors, a handprint. Clear, bloody, long-fingered, jagged nailed. Below it, carved into the grime, were the first 4 numbers of my license plate. I scraped it with my finger. Grit under the nail. My stomach heaved. I forced it down. By dawn, I reached a gas station. Bright lights, vending coffee, candy racks, normal. I washed my face in the bathroom. The mirror showed an old man, gray, eyes sunken, the scratches on my forearms swollen, skin pale. I rinsed them, bought peroxide and bandages, taped them. Hardly painful. Only that strange hollow feeling beneath the skin, as if someone had poured cold sand under it. The clerk asked if I was continuing my run. I nodded. If I opened my mouth, everything might spill out. I stepped out, and by the rear mudguard, I noticed a shred of gray skin, palm-sized, trembling in the breeze. I pried it off with the crowbar. It came away easily, stinking of swamp. I threw it in the trash. The lid clanged. I told myself the squelch was just garbage settling. Daytime makes the road human again. Cars, buses, life. I delivered the cargo by noon. The receiver signed off, glanced at the weigh slip and said, "Weight is 50 kilos heavier." He shrugged. Scales differ. I signed, left. I slept that night with the sound of tapping in my dreams. 3 times, soft, like fingers on metal. Sometimes I think about that road, about what might have happened if I had stepped out under that lamp, or if I had not lit the flare, or if I had turned back at the corridor. I do not know. I only know that night loves those who respect it. It has no hands. It only asks. But if you answer, it takes, not all, just a little, from your skin, from your truck, from your road. Now, before I drive home, I always run my hand along the trailer side, where that handprint once was. My nails always snag on a patch of roughness, and every time I whisper, just enough for myself to hear, "You can come by day," because by day I have work. At night it is hers, and in my trailer there is always air. That is enough. Enough to drive further, enough to live, enough so that if another gray sack of meat lies on the roadside, I can pass without stopping, eyes fixed only on the 2 circles of light ahead, like doors that never open unless you touch the handle. I do not touch it, and I drive.